So it has been widely reported this week by a number of outlets that there is a kind of a speculation that OpenAI could have projected losses of $5 billion in 2024 and ultimately go bankrupt. So they could run out of cash, reportedly, within the next 12 months, unless they can secure another round of funding to avoid that bankruptcy, which probably would happen, right? The caveat here, let me talk about this kind of like this thing around this. So this is pure speculation. This is just based on numbers, projection based on numbers garnered from unreleased internal financial statements and various industry figures. So this is just like educated guess numbers, really. So here's some of those numbers. Spending wise, OpenAI are reportedly spending $700,000 daily running ChatGPT. That's what it costs. When we send in all those requests to ChatGPT, $700,000 on average, reportedly, for running ChatGPT. That's small potatoes compared to the $7 billion they reportedly spent training the models. That's where the chunk of this money went, is training models. And then $1.5 billion on staffing. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to be spending for any company. That's the most amount of spend for any company on the history of the planet in a year. That's a lot of money. On the other side of that, revenue. So they reportedly make between $3.5 billion and $4.5 billion annually. And they've raised over $11 billion to date based on 7 rounds of funding. So that's right. So at maximum, they're making $4.5 billion, but clearly they're spending way more than that. Hence the rumor that, hey, they're kind of going through this money a little too fast, and bankruptcy could be on the cards for them. The company, though, is valued at around $80 billion, though, at last reported. That's nuts. That's nuts for a company. So, Sarah, what do you think? Why do you think Microsoft is throwing so much money at this? What's their? Do they have an out with this? Do they have an end game with this?
Well, I think we've been talking about it for several weeks now, about like just how much money it costs to run all of these things. And as Bobby has pointed out in the past, like consumers are not going to be paying enough to use the service to make up the difference of how much they have to spend in order to keep it going. And so where does the bottom, drop out here? I do think Microsoft is, there's the sunk cost fallacy, maybe, where they're like, just, okay, if we put more money into it, it's going to keep getting better and then it'll start making money. But like, I just don't see a path forward where it's making enough to cover the costs.
Here's the problem. If your widget costs more to sell than it does to make, you're in problem. You have a problem.
Yes, that is not a profitable business, is it?
Every customer they add costs more than what they're selling it for. And so a lot of times in SaaS, when you have software as a service, you get economies of scale. You're like, okay, if we get to 10 million users, that 10th million user is really, really profitable. In this case, that's not the case. This is still being sold at a loss.
Right.
More customers means more cost, right?
Some other reports numbers I read into is like when they got their $10 billion investment from Microsoft, Microsoft ended up with 49% of the company. They also got 75% of profit out of the company for that 10 billion. So like if you go back to the market and you're going to some big VC firm and they're like, what do they have left to sell at this point? So they could sell the other 49% to someone else. And then the company has zero stock in the company. And that's always bad for a startup. They don't have any revenue stream. Even if the person bought the 49%, they're like, oh, you've already promised 75% of the profits to Microsoft. So what are we buying here? How much?
But also it's 75% of nothing though, right?
Yeah.
There are no
money,
profits.
but assuming you do, we're still like, this is backwards. So I don't know where they go. The only person I see putting money into this over the next 12 months is Microsoft itself. I don't think you're going to see Apple come into business with Microsoft in this company, or Google.
I think clearly they've opted out of that, haven't they? Because they would have done that with the announcement of Apple Intelligence and that whole deal they made there with that. You would have thought that was the time, if they were going to invest in it, that they would have done right then. And my guess is OpenAI probably asked them to.
And so as we're recording this, Microsoft's going to report today, as we're recording this, and just not to give you panic, Kevin, but Nvidia's at 103 this morning.
Wow.
So they dropped $13 today. And so like this, we maybe see the beginnings of an AI bubble. I'm not saying that the world's going to end and like AI won't exist, but some of these companies are going to fail at this.
Yeah.
And, you know, and a lot of people, I read a lot of comments on this stuff, and we were laughing through some of the comments like, of course Microsoft's going to put another 10 billion in it. Why wouldn't they? Like, what's 10 billion to Microsoft? I'm like, we have so accustomed to like billions of dollars as like nickels to these guys. It's not.
No.
It's not. Like, you can't make but so many $10 billion bets. So it, and then today, other thing today, me and Kevin signed up for Office 365 Copilot. We were looking at it right before the show and going through all the apps and how it works, and like, and all I can say from it is meh. It's like, you know, like it
has that feeling.
It's kind of meh. And we're so now I've subscribed to Copilot for coding, GitHub Copilot. I've got ChatGPT Plus, and now I have Office 365 Copilot. So I'm looking at this from I'm using this stuff, and I'm like, would I renew this next year? No. I did buy it for a year just because we wanted to know, like, what is Copilot? What is it? What are they going to give us? You know? And so we made a really crappy PowerPoint presentation. Made a terrible website with Power Pages.
My Feeding Turtles PowerPoint presentation was amazing. I asked Copilot to make a PowerPoint presentation about feeding turtles, and it did, until I asked it to add another slide. I asked it about like, what are the specific feeding or foods that a turtle would eat in China or in Asia. I asked it for. In Asia, I asked it for, and it actually turned it around on me. Instead of feeding turtles, it made it into like turtle soup. And then I actually felt bad then. It actually talked about eating turtles. And I was like, this is so wrong. Context was so bad.
So you're giving your presentation to PETA, and then suddenly the turtle soup slide comes up. You're like, yeah, it's AI, man. Like, really? I'm not like, they're throwing
so
rocks
wrong
at you on the
yeah.
Right? Oh my
gosh.
Bad.
It was bad.
It's going to tell you to feed the turtles rocks and super glue, right?
And so then we tried Loop. And so like we're looking at Loop. Just a full disclosure, me and Kevin, we build YouTube videos. We use Google Docs, and we brainstorm sometimes in ChatGPT and pull it over in Google Docs. And we do this weird thing now where we're both typing on the same doc at the same time as we're in real time talking about things. And so we tried that in Loop. Pretty slow. AI integration was there, but it was just kind of like, it didn't add a whole lot of value. There was some problems editing it. And Google Docs is just superior, even without AI.
It wasn't even close. It was way better.
I mean, so like, who's going to use these? I mean, I guess if that's all you have, and that's what you're going to use. But I don't think Copilot is adding $365 a year.
Yeah, so I would say it's also $30 a month when paid annually. Per user. $30 a month when paid annually. It is not cheap. Yes, you get it stuffed into a bunch of applications, and you do. It's stuffed into like everything on the 365 suite. Pretty much every app has it, and it is native within the app. But I don't know. Is that worth it? I don't know. I don't think so.
You know, and you can add documents, and it'll sometimes look through the document and give you information based on the document. So I think one of the presentations we made, we gave it the syllabus from Coder Foundry, and we said, make a presentation for Coder Foundry. Pretty good. I said, make a personal site for Bobby Davis, and that was not good at all. Like, what in the world? They didn't know who I was. Welcome to the world of Bobby Davis. That was its subline. And I'm like, really? That's what you got?
The
Copilot?
world of Bobby Davis.
It wasn't the best, was it?
Such a great world to live in.
So here's how I think about this. I think that, like, when you're spending what's ultimately going to be trillions of dollars on AI, right? Yes. We're going from billions to trillions ultimately, right? Something that you're spending $1 trillion on should be something that is world changing, right? It has to be. It has to be something that fundamentally changes the world. Like, I think the internet fundamentally changed the world. Mm-hmm. And we probably did spend, billions, if not trillions of dollars on the internet, right? Oh, yeah. So, that investment seems worthwhile. I just don't see, at least I'm going to say current generative AI and the path that it goes, that never goes to AGI, in my opinion, is not worth trillions of dollars. It's just not worth that spend. Is it worth millions, maybe billions, maybe, but it's not worth the amount that they're spending on it right now. And I was thinking, is there a long game here? Like, does lots of early investment ultimately pay off like a decade down the line? Is that what we're doing here? We're just putting it in and putting it, like, loading it all up front so that ultimately we can get to AGI or whatever we want to, whatever the ultimate product is. Is that what we're doing?
Well, I think generative AI in general, running out of Azure is a pipe dream at this point. But to make money, it does work. It is kind of slow, but it has to run on chip on device for them to get any kind of benefit out of this long term. So, like, if Apple releases an iPhone, what is it, the 16 or whatever it
16,
is,
yeah,
and there's a $39 a month fee to run OpenAI, no one's paying for that. Like, I just don't see people saying, yes, I need it for that. It needs to run on chip, which you can't put an H100 on chip yet.
right.
So, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? I don't know. I mean, like, it's a problem, you know?
I agree with the Apple thing. I'm not sure whether there's going to be a charge for this or not. They haven't said there is. They've actually said there wasn't, but I would also not be surprised if there is. There's some kind of, like, I was shocked when they didn't, well, when they didn't kind of tell us that it was going to be part of Apple One subscription or whatever it is, and we're going to have to pay for it. I'll still be shocked if this thing comes out to everybody and we don't pay something for it. And I agree with you. If we have to, I don't know how many subscribers they're going to get. Past maybe the initial fascination of, oh, I want to try that.
Do you see Apple subsidizing this and transferring $500 million a year to Microsoft to run AI?
No.
I just don't see it happening. Like, they're in this business to make money. They've also delayed Apple Intelligence, oddly enough, which is weird.
Yep.
And so it's going to come out later than expected. I don't know if they're just waiting around to see what's going to happen here.
I have a suspicion that's a thing. They were late to jump into the game, and I think now they've jumped in. They maybe regret jumping in now, because it's like they maybe see this thing as like, oh, maybe this is a bubble. Maybe we were correct in the first place, and we shouldn't have got in so early.
I mean, if you're seeing Nvidia stock drop today very significantly, CEO is selling stocks. Now, there is prearrange when you're CEO of a large company like that, you have to prearrange these things, and that's part of it. But at the same time, we do know that Microsoft's going to report today. If they don't report that they've made gangbusters with AI revenue, they're going to make a lot of money on Azure and everything else. But, like, if those things show that AI isn't generating to the bottom line,
it's a problem.
It's a problem. Like, Google's stock dropped because of that. Like, they had great numbers. AI was kind of lackluster, and I think you're going to see the same thing because they're spending loads of money. The other thing, too, that's interesting about OpenAI is they're generating 97% or 90% of their data access up on Azure isn't training models. It's running ChatGPT. So they're saying that we're researching AGI. Well, everything they have is just like running this ChatGPT bot. And I always told Kevin, it's like you can go to the data center, everything's like shaking and smoking. You know, they're just like they're doing it as fast as they can. You know, it's like Scotty's back there. I'm giving her all she's got.
Yeah.
You know,
she can't take any more.
So that's why I feel like maybe they've maxed out. I don't know what we'll see. And I could be this guy that's completely wrong on this, and I'll own it next year if that happens. But it hasn't happened yet, man. You know.
Do you think that Microsoft is reporting any earnings from like Lenovo and Dell and, you know, all of the computer manufacturers that are doing these like AI built-in computers with Copilot? Like, you know, like that we talked about, like, you know, several weeks ago, like these PCs with Copilot.
If they report today and they don't mention Copilot revenue and OpenAI revenue, that stock is going to tank. They have to say something about it.
My guess is they won't, though, because it's not good news.
Yeah, then it's going to drop, and then that will tell us all we need to know if they try to hide it. Now, if they come out and say, we expect it to grow this much, it wasn't as much as we thought, you know, but how many people do they have to sell Copilot to? It's a lot. It's like 100 million people.
Do you guys know anybody that bought a Copilot PC?
I don't, but that's what I'm saying.
I know one person.
Is Lenovo giving Microsoft a cut, like, so they can get those users, like not on a monthly fee or anything like that, but like through these PC purchases.
It's a license deal. I'm sure they make money on that. Like I'm
Right.
sure they do. They don't give it away. That's for
Well,
sure.
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm so everyday consumer doesn't necessarily have to like spend this much money to have like Copilot because it's built in basically to their computer purchase.
I'm wondering if that's going to be a license fee at the end of the day. Like, so
Yeah.
how much money, like, because if they do sign up 100 million people, like the Azure bill's got to go through the roof at this point. Like,
Right.
like they may not want to at this point. It's
Yeah.
like, we have
Like,
to
no,
reduce costs here.
don't buy it. Don't buy it.
I mean, like, I forget the number of data of the number of servers they have. It's like 50,000 servers or something like that. It's
It
a
was
lot.
Didn't it say
Yeah.
somewhere in one of
It
these
said
articles?
somewhere in
I
those
think it did
articles
say
how many
somewhere
they
in one of
have
these
at the
articles.
bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to misquote that.
No, it was,
Okay.
it was 290,000 of its
290,000
servers.
You know, just a couple.
It's 250,000 servers between friends. How many do they need? 250,000 more.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll take as many as they can get. This is the thing with them, isn't it? They literally cannot build these things quick enough, these data centers.
So they want to spend $1.5 million a day.
So much.
I mean,
So
is it? There's an accountant somewhere going, telling Nadella right now, Nadella, listen, let's add these numbers up. Like, what's the end of this golden road here? Like, where are we going?
And I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is the end of this golden road? Like that's kind of the whole point of this, right? Is like, I don't think OpenAI goes bankrupt. I think this is just for the headlines, right? I don't think that's an actual real thing. I don't think it goes bankrupt. I think that they do end up putting more money on this, but the thing is this all just based on is it based on like the faith that we ultimately get to AGI? Is that what we're currently running on? We're currently running on this idea of AGI's around the corner, therefore we've already put $10 billion into it. What's another $10 billion to get to AGI, which is the next thing that's coming along, right?
There's no way that they put $10 billion on if ChatGPT is the end, is the product.
No.
They got to have something else. And so like, and we can talk about those in the next segment, like what that we think they might be. But like they're trying some other things, but I don't think ChatGPT is $1 trillion idea.
No.
Agreed.
I mean, it's making $3.5 billion a year, but it costs, $7 to do it.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't matter how many
That's
they sell.
bad business for anybody who's gone to business school. That's bad business.
I mean, like, it doesn't matter how many you sell. Like, you can't make it up because every one of them costs more than every user spends more than they're paying. And if they raise the price, how much would it have to be?
I mean, I wouldn't buy it if it was more than I'm paying right now.
I'm betting you the break-even cost. You can look at it. Let's say they're making they need to double price, and then they break even. So it'd have to be $60 a month.
Right. That's not happening, is it? By the way, that's on top of your Office 365 subscription.
Yeah.
It wasn't just $30 a month for the Office 365. It was plus $30 a month.
That's the break even. So if they want to make money, it's really $90 to $100 a month. So like that's
right.
that's where they get a 30% profit margin, which is kind of where SaaSes are generating. That's kind of where you want to be. And if they look at this as a business unit, operating business unit, you got to make 30 to 40% above what it costs to do it. So it's like there's no way that. And when you look at 100 million people spending $100 a month, the people that can do that are definitely contained in that 100 million, but there's a lot of people that can't do that real quick. You run out of those type of customers really quickly, because they're going to make a difference between that and Netflix.
Yeah.
My Peacock subscription, like we were talking about for the show. So watch the Olympics. So I don't know. I'm kind of a doomer on this thing. My doom meter is going 90% that this is a bubble. I think there's other versions of AI that's not generative that could change the world. I mean, we're seeing that with drone tech and like driverless cars eventually will happen. I mean, they're happening now with Waymo and other kind of stuff. I mean, so like those types of AI solutions kind of can change the game, but I don't know if generative text generation is the thing.
OpenAI's on the brink, the future looking grim. Projected losses climbing high, 5 billion in. Spent billions on a Training models run all day, but revenue can't keep up, bills they have to pay. Running out of time, funds running dry, AI dreams in jeopardy, will they survive? Bankruptcy looming near, investors' hopes are high. Can they find a way, or are they running out of time? Running out of time. Staff costs are rising, tech is moving fast. ChatGPT is popular, but can the success last? Microsoft support can cover every cost, seeking new investments to recover what they've lost. Running out of time, funds running dry, AI dreams in jeopardy, will